Okay, now Phoenix, well, is changing faster than a cactus blooms after a monsoon. From weather patterns to traffic habits and even the way we eat, the old Phoenix, well, it's fading fast. So today we're covering the top 16 things that used to be true about Phoenix, but aren't really true anymore. See, the one thing that's constant in life is that things, well, they're gonna change. Most everything doesn't stay the same forever, and Phoenix is no different. It's a major, bustling city, now the 5th largest city in the entire country. And if you've been around Phoenix for any time at all, you have some things that you think you know, but maybe just ain't so. And so we're gonna unpack these 16 things that are on the list that are newer and changing in the Phoenix area so you're fully prepared. See, some of these are good, some of these are bad. Just depends on how you interpret them, but either way, change is constant, and Phoenix is constantly evolving from this little sleepy, hot desert town to this big metropolis that people are finding to be extremely fun and a place that frankly people want to live year round. Yes, even with that heat. Number 1 on the list is going to be, well, Phoenix is just that one big retirement community. And that would be true because back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there were several communities that Phoenix was synonymous for. Sun City West, and Leisure World out in the East Valley. These 55 plus communities were everywhere, and a lot of people came down to Phoenix just to retire because they lived somewhere else during the summer months. And while that still is true, there are plenty of snowbirds out there. People want the best of both worlds because, let's face it, in the wintertime, Phoenix is pretty awesome. But in the summertime, not as awesome. But the scene is shifting in terms of the local economy, and tech companies like TSMC, Intel, and others are bringing in a younger workforce from all across the nation. And well, since the pandemic, the remote work has brought a lot of younger workers and the entire workforce of millennials primarily to the Phoenix area from places like California, Chicago, Seattle, and elsewhere. See, Phoenix is one of the leaders across the country for new multifamily development, well, primarily to solve the issue of affordable housing to an extent for a younger workforce. See, they thrive in the apartment setting, the condo living, the convenience lifestyle, the gig economy, all those things, the walkability they love. And so you have places like Midtown, downtown, you have the Tempe Town Lake area, you have Scottsdale where they are flooding these areas and taking up the housing. And so the demand from the construction side is thriving as well to keep up with that workforce. So all kinds of social events happening all across the city seem to be more and more prevalent. Events like First Fridays, Phoenix Fan Fusion, and live music festivals are attracting a much younger, more diverse crowd. Not to mention, it seems like more and more concerts keep coming to Phoenix each and every year, including in the summertime, where they will have them either outside or inside in a conditioned sports arena. Now, with that workforce that's coming down because of what the local economy is doing with the boom there, you're gonna have more traffic. So number 2 is gonna be the freeways. Well, they're always clear. Not so much. Now, the good news is that Phoenix Freeways system is actually one of the better ones for a major city across America. And when I say that, I'm saying it from a standpoint of being stuck actually on a freeway. Now, they've done a good job of trying to be proactive for the most part of extending lanes. So there is a lot of construction happening throughout the Phoenix area, and it will continue most likely happening for quite some time because of the influx of population growth. But once upon a time, the freeways were always clear. Rush hour wasn't really a thing in this sleepy desert town, especially in the 90s. It was so easy. Traffic was light. It flowed really well. But then as soon as that population got around that 5 million mark, the 101, 202, and the I-10, well, they can look more like the 405 in LA, like a parking lot. You know what I'm saying? If you've been on that interstate. And as much as the Department of Transportation in Arizona has planned for population growth, they are still behind like most cities. So you're gonna have construction happening all the time. Now, one of the things that's small are the on-off ramps. Now, a lot of cities have this issue. Arizona's no different, and this is specific, but make the on-off ramps longer so people have time to get their speed up to merge into the traffic on the interstates. How hard is it? ADOT, but please do that for future construction, because the main reason that interstates get backed up is because people merge into the traffic and they don't have time to get their speed up, and they clog the lanes up and make them slow down. So that would really help. But I'll say one thing with the traffic is what you're seeing more and more in Phoenix, and especially in Scottsdale happening, are roundabouts. I love roundabouts. Roundabouts keep traffic flowing. Even though a lot of people don't know how to really work the roundabout, especially the 2-lane roundabout. Oh, don't get me started on that one. It is a awesome thing, because why would you have to stop at a red light if there's no traffic coming? I mean, if there's no traffic coming, can I just go? Well, roundabout lets you do that, whereas a traffic light does not. So keep it going with roundabouts, Phoenix and Scottsdale. I love them. By the way, what do you think about roundabouts? Do you like them, hate them? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Let us know in the comments below. Speaking of traffic patterns that kind of surround the nucleus of the city, the downtown Phoenix, well, it's a ghost town after dark. Well, 15 years ago, you'd be right, because it was a ghost town after workers left for the day. But that is not true. That is not the new downtown Phoenix. See, the city has a plan for entertainment and vertical full-time living in downtown, not just office buildings anymore. And this is going to revitalize the downtown, which Phoenix desperately needs to have that as a hub, a nucleus for people to go hang out, live full-time, or just do more besides work, like entertainment and venues for that. And downtown Phoenix is delivering on just that right now as we speak, with it continuing to grow as an entertainment hub for the entire greater Phoenix area. See, the downtown dining scene is also getting better. From new restaurants like Pomo Pizzeria or Nobu, it now draws people from all over the valley to downtown Phoenix. The first Fridays turn the streets into a packed festival of art, food trucks, and live performances. And don't forget about Roosevelt Row. That place is exploding in downtown Phoenix. The Roosevelt Row used to be sleepy and kind of just only known for the people who actually live in that nucleus, that area of downtown Phoenix. Not anymore. Roosevelt Row is on the map, known for its galleries, its murals, and its trendy bars. And one thing Roosevelt Row and most living down there does not have is a large lawn. That brings me to my next point, because back in the day when water conservation wasn't really a big thing and agriculture kind of ran most of the economy for Phoenix, we're talking several decades ago, everyone had a large lawn because irrigation was a big thing. Now, you can still get an older home in an area like Arcadia or Central Phoenix where you're gonna have an irrigated lot most likely, which is cool because it's all grass. Your front, your backyards are grass. And the way you get water for that is through irrigation. You have these little berms and the yard kind of sinks down just a little bit and it builds up around the border of your front and backyards, holding the water in. When the irrigation comes out, it floods your lot, it gets down low into the roots and keeps your yard looking nice and green, even through the hot summer months. And it's less expensive than having watering systems with sprinklers. So that is great if you want a nice green grass yard in the desert in Phoenix. However, it's moving away from that. The cities across the Phoenix area are now using water conservation across the board. And so having these big, large, grassy yards is not really a thing any builders or developers are doing anymore. With all the news about the Colorado River and the shrinking water supply, it causes concern for a lot of people in the future. Now, I do think overall, Phoenix is going to be just fine because there is some government intervention. There are contracts and there are ways that other states and cities are actually chipping in to conserve that same water source of the Colorado River. And without going into too much detail on that today, most suburbs throughout the Phoenix area have a 100-year assured water supply. That doesn't come from just the Colorado River, but also from ground sources and below the ground in aquifers. And so it does look bright for the water issue in the Phoenix area into the distant, long future. But again, that doesn't mean we shouldn't be conserving today to make sure we have that supply in the future. So to replace that grass, a lot of people are continuing to go more and more to the xeriscape, the hard landscaping. So you have rocks, you have pavers, you have artificial turf. Artificial turf has exploded because you still get the grass green look all year round with very little, if not any, maintenance on it. And so that is a big thing that most places are going to if you want some color and that green grass color living in the desert. And you don't have to worry about mowing the lawn and paying for all the additional maintenance that comes with watering the grass and of course cutting and trimming the grass as well. So this notion that everyone in Phoenix has this large lush grass yard even though you live in the desert is not really a thing happening anymore in Phoenix, although you can buy older homes that certainly have that setup if you so choose. Which perfectly segues to the next topic that Phoenix says summers are only for the indoor lifestyle. But locals have mastered the desert schedule: early mornings, late nights, and shaded afternoons. You have farmers markets at 7 a.m. Outdoor yoga happens at sunrise. Music events often begin after sunset because the reality is when the sun is not bearing right on you, the temperature drops immensely, and it actually is very bearable to be outside in 105-degree temperatures with no sun on you as long as you're in the shade or the sun has already set. It really is true. This is not a hype up on Phoenix. When I say this, guys, it is true that you will be halfway comfortable actually when you're in the shade, even though the temperatures are in the triple digits. You have evening golf, hikes at South Mountain, and other trailheads across the Phoenix area. And food trucks, well, they keep the party rallying all through the night. Oh, and you can't forget rooftop pool parties in Phoenix. I think Phoenix has to be the top place to live in all of America if you love some good rooftop pool parties. Speaking of the parties, you know some place that is actually doing really well right now, but was the only place several decades ago to party in Phoenix? Well, that was Old Town. And it used to be the only place where you could go have a great time on any night almost of the week. But that has changed. That scene of entertainment has now spread across other places throughout the Phoenix area. Old Town still has high energy clubs, but the party scene is more spread out now. Downtown Phoenix has rooftop cocktail bars everywhere as far as I can see, as well as Old Town Phoenix. Tempe's Farmers Avenue has indie breweries and live music, and even suburbs like Gilbert and Chandler in East Valley are getting in on the action. They actually have a thriving nightlife with speakeasies, wine bars, and live venues as well. But don't sleep on the entertainment scene in the Phoenix area because it's more than just Old Town Scottsdale. And guys, let me tell you about Old Town Scottsdale. It is pretty fantastic. I think if you want to go someplace, you start there. But if you live here, or maybe you're visiting and you're staying somewhere else far away from Old Town, even though you may want to go visit that at least one time, there's other places you can get your vibe on as well. Oh, and shout out to the West Valley as well, because Westgate and that entertainment district is up and coming with the Desert Diamond Casino just to the north as well. That's a fantastic place to spend a weekend night. Now, this is an oldie but goodie because this is what everyone used to think, and probably some people still think about Phoenix, and that is everyone works in real estate or construction. Now, somebody who works in real estate, trust me, believe me, I've been doing this 20 years in Phoenix, and 20 years ago, it was without a doubt like this. You could add tourism in there, but overall Phoenix is really a service-based industry city and economy that sprinkled in the real estate, construction, and tourism. And that was about it. There was hardly any Fortune 500 companies headquartered right here in the entire state. In fact, I think there were only one 20 years ago, but that has changed. The local economy is now diversified and booming throughout the Phoenix area. While real estate is still huge, you now have Phoenix as a tech hub, a healthcare hub, and huge in fintech and finance as well. Intel's Ocotillo campus in Chandler is one of the largest semiconductor manufacturing facilities in the United States. And don't forget about TSMC's massive new fab and multiple fabs to come in North Phoenix, as this is a $165 billion project that is happening right here in this Phoenix that is making the head spin of most of their cities across America. In the healthcare space, you have Banner Health, Dignity Health, and of course you have the Mayo Clinic leading the way for the healthcare industry in the Phoenix area. Oh, and don't forget companies that have major offices down here like Charles Schwab, PayPal, and Robinhood, just to name a few. So this local Phoenix economy is growing at a rate like no other economy across America. People want to be in Phoenix, and the employers recognize that, and they're making massive billion-dollar investments in the local Phoenix economy, and they're betting on the future of Phoenix, Arizona. Now, when you have this explosion of all these jobs coming to Phoenix, well, those people, they need a place to live. And in the past, homes, well, they were dirt cheap in Phoenix, right? Not so much anymore. The housing market has exploded, especially since COVID, right here in the Phoenix area. See, Phoenix was always beat down as one of these undervalued cities that really were dirt cheap for many, many decades leading up till about COVID. Even before COVID, they were really undervalued overall. Rents were severely undervalued for about 15 years leading up to the COVID pandemic. Rents were about 68 cents a square foot up to about 75 cents a square foot. That's it. That's all they were, and that's cheap living when it comes to the rental market especially. But fast forward to today, 2025, the average price per square foot for a rental is now at $1.36 a square foot. So that is a big increase on the rental side. Fast forward to the housing side, you're talking a median home price that was in the low $200,000 that now currently sits at about $443,000 and peaked around $480,000 here back just a couple years ago. So while that number may seem a little high to the average Phoenician who's been living here for a while because homes were dirt cheap, they're not so anymore. But that does not make Phoenix completely unaffordable. You have to understand that the national median home price is around $450,000. With ours being at $443,000 today, we are right in the ballpark of being affordable for most housing across America. But one thing that's for sure, it just ain't dirt cheap like it used to be for people who have lived here for a while. Talking about people who actually want to live in Phoenix, especially in the wintertime, Snowbirds, well, they keep the city alive full time. Without them, we'd be sunk, right? Wrong. That's how it used to be many decades ago. But as you know, Phoenix has completely changed where the snowbirds still come down and they do clog up our freeways in the wintertime, no doubt about it. But because of remote work and the access to that and the decentralization of a lot of companies, a lot of people took that full-time move to Phoenix, and we are now at a population of over 5 million as the 5th largest city in the nation. So Snowbirds, thank you for all that you do, but we can get by without having to rely solely on your injection of money into the economy in the winter months. Because trust me, in the summertime, it is not completely dead. There are concerts, a lot of concerts that come through even in the summertime. There are sporting events. Because trust me, there's a lot to do even in the summertime here in the Phoenix. You still have an outdoor lifestyle, like we talked about earlier, that is a big part of the fabric of the full-time resident in Phoenix. So you still have sporting events, you have indoor concerts, you have food festivals, and a lot of these things keep residents year-round engaged with the city. But that doesn't mean that most people who are here year-round don't go on vacation in summertime, and that certainly doesn't mean that a lot of people won't jet up to Flagstaff or someplace in northern Arizona where the temperature is going to be a lot cooler for the weekend just to escape the heat for a few days. So now bring it back down to the Phoenix area, the next thing's gonna be there's no public transit in the Phoenix area. Well, that would be untrue. You now have the light rail, and although it only covers a small portion of the entire greater Phoenix area because it's so spread out, it is a good and very cheap and a cost-effective way to get around the town for certain areas. The Valley Metro Light Rail connects Mesa, Tempe, and Phoenix with expansion to Glendale coming here soon, and the capital area as well. Who is it popular for? Well, it's popular for ASU students, event goers, and downtown workers who want to skip parking fees. And there are quite a few suburban park and ride lots as well that many workers who commute actually take advantage of by parking their car at that lot nearby their area of town they live in, and then hopping on the light rail or the bus system from there. Now, let's be honest, this is not New York City style public transit, but it is a viable option for a good segment of the population living right here in Phoenix. The next thing is going to be Phoenix. Well, it just doesn't have a good food scene. And once again, you would be mistaken because this is the new Phoenix. This is not your grandma and grandpa's Phoenix, Arizona from decades ago. Downtown Phoenix boasts food halls now, like the Churchill and Cityscape eateries. There's more diversity in the food scene than ever, with Ethiopian, Korean barbecue, ramen shops, vegan fine dining, and upscale Mexican that are all thriving. And you know, we have some really authentic good Mexican here in the Phoenix area. In fact, I'm gonna go on a limb and say it's the best in the country. And a lot of these great concepts of restaurants are now hitting the East Valley and the West Valley alike. You'd be surprised at the food scene and how much it has come up and got so much better in just the last 5 to 10 years, let alone 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Oh, and don't get me started on coffee shops. You know, we love our local coffee shops, and we have explored almost all of them in the entire city on this YouTube channel because we want to support local coffee. And guys, coffee shops bring community together, which is fantastic. And Phoenix has no shortage of coffee shops and mom and pop shops that we will always support throughout the Phoenix area. And last but not least, when it comes to food and beverage, don't sleep on breweries. There are plenty of great breweries throughout the Phoenix area, from Santan to Four Peaks, and the list goes on. Okay, so now you have some good food, Kelly. I'm glad Phoenix has that. That is well needed, and I would agree. But the housing design scene, not cool. Everything's just earth tone colors, brown, and all the suburbs look exactly alike with all the houses down any given street. And you would be actually right about that in most places across the Phoenix area when it comes to the major communities that a lot of these builders do it. And I hate to say it, but unfortunately, it's more like that the cheaper the homes get. So if you have a budget in which you can afford a average priced home to a nicer priced home, well, you're gonna have more variety in your design, not just in your house or your neighbors, but the entire neighborhood and neighborhoods around it as well. But you have historic districts like the Willow District, the Palmcroft Encanto District, Garfield District, FQ Story, and the list goes on. So you can get involved with some really cool homes with a lot of character in those historic districts, and they will be older, but those are found primarily in the central Phoenix and uptown, midtown area. These areas are filled with renovated historic homes as well as high-rise newer condos, so you get a little bit of mix of everything. Then if you have a really big budget and you can afford places like in North Scottsdale or Paradise Valley or in Arcadia, well then the world is your oyster when it comes to housing design, because there are plenty of custom homes throughout these places, as well as even central Scottsdale where Cactus Corridor lies also. And last but not least, I think some of these big builders that are building in Phoenix have heard some of the grumblings about this, because you're starting to see more design choices with the elevations of the type of homes you could buy, as well as floor plans when some of these big builders are coming into a large plot of land and building it out into a major subdivision. So more design choices are on the docket in the future for housing here in Phoenix. Now let's jump over to the East Valley, because downtown Mesa, well, you know, it's just a sleepy old strip of property and it's pretty dead there. Wrong, that is not the case with downtown Mesa anymore. It is alive, and the light rail running right through downtown Mesa has really brought a revitalized sense of energy and lifestyle to this area. Breweries like Desert Eagle and 12 West are drawing younger crowds into downtown Mesa. The Mesa Art Center is a staple that hosts concerts, theater events, and art shows year-round. And walkability, that's improved too. Downtown Mesa has now public art installations and murals that make it more Instagram friendly and just really more of a millennial vibe, attracting that younger demographic to kind of revitalize the sleepy strip that used to be downtown Mesa. Now going from the East Valley to the West Valley, this is one of my favorite myth-busting things that have changed over the last several years, and that is, well, the West Valley, it's just farmland. There's nothing out there. Well, you couldn't be further from the truth, because while there is some farmland still out there, Goodyear and Buckeye are two of the fastest cities in the entire country when it comes to population growth. This area is sprawling and booming, with the Loop 303 extension now out there hitting the I-10 on the way out to California. You now have a lot of commercial activity coming in with entertainment, and of course, spring training baseball with 2 major league teams being right there in Goodyear. And big employment centers are now starting to pop up, because you now have data centers and big companies like Amazon and Nestle, and these companies building these industrial big projects out in the West Valley that is attracting a lot of people to move out there, because A, it's newer and more affordable. And when it comes to housing, two of my favorite places out in that area in the far West Valley are Verrado and Australia Mountain Ranch. Australia Mountain Ranch is a tucked-in master plan community that is back in the Australian mountains off the beaten path, and it is sustainable. So when you live back in there, you can pretty much get everything done that you need to get done on a daily basis, from shopping to schools, right there in your own backyard. And the same really goes for Verrado, which is on the north side of the I-10. That is more of a upscale, luxurious community that is just a great place to live, work, and play in the West Valley. We went from the East Valley to the West Valley. Now we're going right to the middle, and we're talking about the Metro Center, because at one point in time, that was the bee's knee. That was the place, and the only place really to go shop and get all your stuff done when it came to those needs. But that has changed. Matter of fact, the Metro Center as we know it, the old mall that was really big, well, it's gone.
There it goes, wow.
See, it closed its doors in 2020, and since then it has been demolished. And now a huge redevelopment plan is underway at the Metro Center, because it is a phenomenal central location for most people throughout the Phoenix area. It is now being redeveloped into a mixed-use mini city with apartments, dining, office space, and the new light rail stop as well for that public transportation. This change reflects a bigger shift away from traditional malls toward lifestyle and entertainment-based developments where you can do everything all in one. And the last one we're going to mention today is going to be Mill Avenue is the hotspot, and will only ever be the hotspot in Tempe, Arizona to go to if you want to eat, have fun, go to some bars, and stay out really late into the night. Now, I personally love this one because I've experienced many nights at Mill Avenue in my younger days, of course, but that scene is now starting to change. Now, Mill Avenue is still a monster. It is still a place a lot of people do want to go, and there are some good places to hang out, bars, shops, restaurants, but there's also more diversity happening when it comes to the entertainment of younger professionals or college-age students, and it's not just Mill Avenue anymore. And primarily, you have higher rents pushing out some of these operators of these restaurants that no longer can afford the rent. But there will always be places for them to go, and while Mill Avenue is still one of them, you now have other places that they hang out, like Tempe Marketplace or the Warehouse District, or even downtown Phoenix is starting to pull in some of those ASU crowds because of the projects and the entertainment that's now happening in downtown Phoenix, which is not too far away from the main ASU campus in Tempe, as well as ASU having a campus in downtown Phoenix as well. Oh, and don't forget, just a little bit to the north, you have Old Town Scottsdale, and that is the epicenter for entertainment for everyone in the Phoenix area. And so college-age students, well, they're gonna wanna go up there and frequent their luck there as well. But again, you have to have a little bit higher budget for your partying and your entertainment if you go up to Old Town Scottsdale as opposed to going out in Tempe. So now if you've lived in Phoenix for any amount of time, call it 15, 20 years or longer, you know what I'm talking about with all these changes. But is it better or is it worse than what it was 15, 20 years ago or longer? Do you like the Phoenix that it is today and that it's moving towards, or you prefer the good old days of it being more of a quiet, sleepier desert town? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to know what your thoughts are, because this gives everyone perspective, people who don't live here, never have, on if maybe they want to come down to Phoenix or not. If you're thinking it, someone else is too. So write it in the comments below. I want to know. I'll reply personally to your comments as well. And if you don't live in Phoenix currently and you're thinking about making the move, give us a call. We'd love to chat with you because there are more than 16 things that you should be aware of when looking to make the move to Phoenix. That's 480-660-5974. I really appreciate your time in watching this video. And if you want to see the ultimate guide on everything you need to know if you're moving to Phoenix, then watch the video here on the next screen.